we got all the way from Texas, the one and only Warhammer. Welcome.
How you doing, bud?
How's it going?
I'm good.
Seen some of your shows. I've seen some of your matches. I've seen some of your, the podcast stuff you've done on the network and other stuff. And I have to say, I want to know more. I'm interested. It's interesting. It gets me. You got a very unique character. I want to talk about that. You said you're bringing something to wrestling I haven't seen since like Berserker.
And that's the influence. That's the guy I'm kind of modeling and bringing back today. That's what I feel is missing from today's wrestling. Is just the iconic gimmicks. To me, it's oversaturated with 1, 2, and 3 name people. You got your MJFs, you got your Logan Pauls, you got your, name them all. They're just Seth freaking Rollins. It's just generic names. Who stands out in the long runs? You got your Undertaker. Boom, the biggest name right there. That's not a real name. But his gimmick transcended everything for 40 years.
No, I mean, even if you go back early and simple people like Ultimate Warrior, just a two-name word, an Ultimate and then a Warrior, a Macho Man,
That's a little different. I'm talking generic names, like Steven something, Steven Smith, Andy
Brown.
That's
what we got nowadays. People are, and I think part of that has to do with bringing maybe some of the realism, like, let's identify as, a name, and then this way somebody will recognize me as, a person too. Even though regardless, that's probably not their real name anyways. Which is the funny thing, because a lot of, as a kid, you believe it, but like as you get older, you realize, well, that's not their real name.
Well, Daniel Bryan, perfect example. Daniel Bryan's not that name, but he's Bryan Danielson.
But then you got someone like Shawn Michaels, which is like totally different last name, and he just made it work and sound good. And like sometimes it's an offshoot, sometimes it's a totally different name, which is fine too. But it's unique to see how they do it. Sometimes they do work their real name, and like with Bryan Danielson, Daniel and Bryan's, how they did that, and that's cool. Because I do believe that a wrestler, for the most part, should be, and I'm not a wrestler, but just from what I see, the people I talk to, that it should be an extension of yourself, something that you can work with easily. So it doesn't feel like it's a job to do this.
Correct. I was told, take something about you and crank it to 11. Well, I mean, Warhammer, me, in the ring is a, fighting, brawling SOB. I mean, I shut down me and become a different animal for just a couple of minutes.
But that's what makes it fun, makes it unique, because then, we're going there to see Warhammer. We're not going there to see you.
Correct.
And not for nothing, I mean, we can see you 6 out of the 7 days a week if we know you. But
we can go to the movies. We can go out to eat. We can go to Mexican restaurant.
I'm not going to get to see you in gear in that war mode and just ready for destruction.
Correct.
Until I walk into a wrestling arena and see Warhammer.
Correct. Until you hear my music, that's the only time you're going to find me. You hear my music.
Let me ask you, is it hard to shut that on and off?
For me, no. I've done a lot of acting as a kid. Was in a lot of school plays. Then, went to the drama club in high school, was in theater club and all that stuff. So was doing one-act plays in UIL, was doing serious plays, was in musicals while I wasn't in the choir. Like the choir teacher kept asking me to come do special parts. So I was constantly acting. This is just physical theater for me.
Yeah, and that's what I heard, from a lot of people. A lot of the theater kids got into wrestling because a lot of, the drama aspect, how to tell the story, all of that very similar. And now you throw in the fighting, and then, bam, here you are. And it's basically like, and I'll tell this every time I talk about it, a perfect movie star, because you do all your lines, all your acting, and then you got all your own fight scenes. You don't have to bring in somebody else to do that. No crash pass, nothing. You can just boom, go. Here we go.
And it's 7 minutes, 8 minutes. Here's your story. That's it.
And I love seeing that, because I have seen wrestlers transcend over, and not just major wrestlers, but also some indie guys, and it's like they shine through when they do that because you can tell it's just natural.
I get messaged, occasionally that, hey, I saw your work with this. I really can't wait to work with you here, and to me that blows my mind because, oh gosh, y'all are watching me, but I'm just doing my thing. I'm hoping to entertain, but when it catches somebody, you just feel it and it.
So you kind of just go out there with the intent that, well, I mean, you're doing you, but you're doing, you're entertaining the crowd. But
Yes.
if people latch on, or if it resonates, or somebody's feeling it, it's kind of like a bonus. You're not going out there to try to create the moments. You just let them happen naturally.
Yes. Yes.
Which I think today in a lot of wrestling, people are trying to script these moments to happen.
I mean, I certainly want to have a 5-star banger match, but
Yeah,
I understand.
But can that happen scripted, or do you need that magic of the atmosphere, the fans, where they're going, for all that to really take place?
That's what I need, because I can script it A, B, and C, and we walk these letters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 all the way down. But if the crowd's not feeling it, we got to stop.
No,
I was in one match in my early career. I know I'm still young, but and I was working heel. This other guy was working face. I came out, they instantly started booing him, started cheering me. I wasn't solid enough to say, hey, everything we worked on, we need to flip. He didn't like losing. He didn't want to take a loss. So he kept it where he won, but nobody in the crowd understood the match because they didn't want to see me lose. They wanted me to win. We should have been able to flip it. And that's what you're talking about. Being able to read
I'm
the
kind
crowd.
of working on the fly. And yes, I get it, the storyline's a storyline, but when you see the magic happen before, whether you're the booker, you're somebody in the crowd, whatever, that you're part of the show, and you start to see the fans go a certain way, it's like, we could postpone our plans a little bit. Let's see where this magic takes us. What happens if it takes, the next level of fans?
Let's just open this door. They've already presented it. Let's just go here just to see where it leads us. And then we can either, continue or do something else.
And supposedly that is what WWE decided to do with WrestleMania and the Cody Rhodes story. I guess they had a whole different direction, and the fans stood behind, and they made adjustments to kind of, focus in on what the fans wanted. But I wish it would happen more and be more fluid. And I guess that's the difference. I mean, I've talked to veterans, I've talked to people that have been in the business. A lot of the times before, they would do a lot more in-ring talking. And now it's a lot of before match talking. And in the match, you kind of just got to remember what to do. And, that works to an extent. But like I said, you could be doing your stuff. And if the fans aren't feeling it, they're giving you a different reaction than what you're doing. And not for nothing, the indie scene isn't the major scene. They're not going to pump in sounds of joy.
Okay. There's no hair dryers here.
No. So, whatever happens is it's like, okay, we need to change something here. I mean, because again, you got, everybody's match is their time to shine. You go out there, you want to make yourself memorable. You want to have a memorable match of the night. Whether it's the main event or the opening match, you want someone to go home and remember you. Say, hey, at the end of the day, hey, I saw that Warhammer guy. I want to see him again.
Yep.
And to totally script a match, I mean, I get that. I get where the control comes. But for me, when I hear that, I expect to see something then like Bray Wyatt versus John Cena's match at WrestleMania, where it's totally just, a movie.
I mean, if you're going to script it, that's all, great for you. I'm glad you've got the memory for that. After I fall down a dozen times, you might have to remind me. I can't do a 275 spot match like Macho Man and who was it?
That's the thing. Also, any minor bump or injury, you get a minor concussion in the middle of the match, and half of the match you've forgotten. It's like, now what are we gonna do here?
Break a nose in the middle of it.
But again, like, I don't think that the magic can be planned. You can't think in your head, hey, this is really gonna get over. And it might work some of the time, but I think the real magic comes from those moments that aren't planned and just happen on the fly.
And to me, that's why I call it cookies. I can eat cookies. I know I've got to fall down 3 times and then I've got to do this. I know I've got to knock you down 4 times and then you do this. It really doesn't matter what this is. I understand I've got to fall down. So even if you forget to throw a back elbow, you're going to drop kick me. Okay, well, I'm still taking it back.
You count your bumps on the mat and then you go from there.
That much I can remember. Fall down 8 times total and I'm good.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense because, like you said, you know how to almost eat anything that's coming. Just make sure you eat it and don't stand there.
Correct.
And that's the whole thing. Now, you said you were rather new. When did you get into it?
I started late 2017, so really started training 2018. So being 35 and I'm 40 now, I've only got 4 years. A lot of people don't call that a long time in the business.
No, but it's time in the business. You really can't compare apples and oranges. Had you started younger, maybe you'd be in longer, right?
I certainly would have if no injuries and everything fell into place.
That's the thing. Things can happen. There's been people that started, had to stop. And I commend you for even getting in there, even at that age. It's not easy. I'm around that same age, and I've done seminars and day trainings and fancy camps, and there's nothing easy about being inside that ring.
And I had to stop twice too. Like you said, I've had to stop twice, once for a major injury, once for, money, just didn't have the money to support training.
And that's the other thing, as you get older, the injury time, it slows down and it's not a rapid, turnaround and you're out. And when you're out, it takes time to recover. You got to get back into the ring. You got to run the road and you got to get off the rust. And it all takes time to get back. And at some point you got to look and be like, okay, if I get injured again, am I really ready to go back one more time and do it all again? Unfortunately, as you get older, every wrestler looks that way. It's not like TV wrestling where you can kind of stretch it and stretch your career because you're only wrestling, once every 5 months, but you still notice.
And they also get the best health care.
And but you're also making money off the side. You're contracted. So that's the big difference. In indie wrestling, you're not contracted. So you got to get out there every weekend or you're not going to make much.
Yeah. And plus I've got to go to work Monday. I got to go to work Tuesday. So
yeah.
Knowing you have to work safe in order to survive.
You're not working your regular job, and that puts you out even worse.
Yeah.
And vice versa. I've seen people get injured at their regular job, and then they're out of wrestling.
And that's exactly what happened. I tore a bicep at my shoot job and couldn't wrestle. They blamed it on wrestling because they knew I was a wrestler. Why would I hurt myself at 5 o'clock?
Of course, workman comp's not going to want to pay that.
And that's what they were trying to avoid.
They're going to say, he did that in the ring. That's an old injury. And enough of nothing, you knew what you were getting into when you're wrestling, right? There's a liability waiver you sign. There's injury risk. There's death risk. These things can happen in the ring. Even to the best trained people, you can get injured just by, something happening that's non-prepared. You step the wrong way. And it's not just wrestling. It's like any major sport, right? You're playing basketball, you twist your ankle. You're playing football, you tear your ACL. This all happens in all the major sports with the most well-trained people and the greatest athletes. So it's almost not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And how am I going to recoup when it does happen? What am I going to do to make it work?
In all other sports, of an injury is a potential. In wrestling, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. No matter how good you are, you're going to get injured in some way. It's just
that's contact sport like that. You're fighting. You're putting your body through hell every time you get in there, regardless if people think so or not. You're throwing yourself around. Besides the visible bumps, bruises, the slap marks, the chop marks, and all of that, the internal injuries add up. The wear and tear on the muscles, the bones, the knees, the legs, everything.
And I was saying I work strong style, so I'm a brawler. So I'm not really pulling too much. I'm giving you a solid forearm. I'm giving you a solid clothesline so you can fall. It sounds and looks like it hurts. Probably didn't feel good, but
if you fall the right way, it's not going to be as bad.
Correct. The next day you're pretty dehydrated and, hey, that's a new bruise and that's a new bruise and, this hurts and that hurts. But essentially it's, it's coming.
And that is with strong style. Yes, granted, there's other styles and people all work different. Some people, they don't even connect. I've seen and I've worked and I had stuff happen where, we were doing stuff and they didn't even connect with me. And it's like, I don't know what to do if it doesn't connect with me. I mean, at least I know what to do if it, I feel it. But when it doesn't connect at all, I have no key coordination to like move my head. I just stood there and acted like the guy missed.
No sell. Because
it was a no sell. I missed it. It missed.
But that's essentially what it is. It's a no sell, and make him do it again. Oh, that didn't hurt. Really swing on me, and then you can make an over dramatic.
I get it. I mean, this is like, and I've seen people, they'll be doing kicks, and I've seen on TV. There's just no connection at all, and it's like there's a gap, and if you slow down the camera, you can see the gap, and it's like, okay, yes, that's great, but it's like I personally couldn't sell that. I wouldn't know when to move. I need at least some kind of nudge that hits my body to say, okay, go into pain mode. Oh, ouch.
That's why I like working snug. All my guys in Marshall, we work snug. We're going to connect. So you're going to know when to fall. And a lot of people don't like working snug.
No, I can see why. I probably would be somewhere in between that and snug. I would be like, you hit me, but don't fucking knock the wind out of me.
Oh, absolutely. But that's I'm only going to hit you in the safe spots, chest, the back, right here. I know where to aim, and I can make it look good, but it's all in where it lands.
Yeah, and it's all the way you saw. You hit my arm, and I grab my head, and everything's fast. Well, it looks like you punched me in my head. and sound, that's part of it. But I do think working somewhat stiff or being somewhat, like I said, physical makes it easier. I remember in the day at camp, there was people that were showing us how to, like, if you were to get clotheslined out of the ring, right? And so, you're standing on the ring and you basically, you hold on the ropes and you flip yourself over. And we all did it, and like, I found it very awkward. And so then the trainer came in, he was like, well, does anybody want me to clothesline you over the rope? And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And so, like, the first kid comes in and he does it, and the kid doesn't go. Now, this guy that does it, big dude, he hits this kid, this young kid, he doesn't go with it. He took the whole thing, he drops to the ground, boom. He ate the whole thing. But then, like, for me, it was so much easier because I could see him coming. He hits, I feel him push. I run with that momentum and just flip myself. And I was like, oh, this is so much easier than me having to think about it myself.
So much easier when you're using your partner's momentum.
I think people don't realize it's very unnatural to fall. Nobody wants to fall. So when you try to get knocked down and you have to knock yourself down, it's like you do everything in your power not to fall. And when you do that, it's when you're going to break your wrist and shit.
How old are you? That's how long you've been walking on your feet. You're not supposed to be on your back. That's a vulnerable position. Every time you fall down, we get back up. We know to get back up. So for somebody to just willingly fall down,
And that's the thing. And it's like, so you have to almost fight natural instinct. And then at that point, you got to be careful because that's how you end up breaking your wrists and twisting your ankles because you're not falling plus. And you end up bracing yourself in your hands like you would normally do or think to do if you don't know how to fall.
Correct. And I try to open up, I'll punch the mat. I'll, slap the mat, do what I can to get my arms out and to not brace myself.
Yeah, pull your neck in, you don't want to hit your head and, you pull up. But just having that happen, I see guys get in the ring, they walk in, they just boom, down, boom, bump, boom, bump. It's like, that's great. I think I still would need, I'd have to train obviously more, but I would need someone to like punch me and then I could go.
I need a little bit of contact. I can't just do it off of a.
Yeah, and that's just, more of a mental thing, I think, than a physical thing. Because like I said, like I don't want to throw myself on the ground. And I've been thinking, and every time I'm talking about this, I was thinking about doing, like looking at wrestling training, doing maybe like once a week just to see what it's like, have some fun. Not looking to be booked, do shows, do any of that, but just learn more of the basic stuff, you know, and see where it goes. If they land something in like commentary or something in mandatory, any which way, you need to know the fundamentals, right?
Yes,
So I
learning
mean,
the
I've been
fundamentals.
looking at kind of schools, and I've been asking, you know, kind of like student-y asked questions to people. But it is something I'm kind of been looking at because you know, it's a lot of great schools near me. And you know, wrestling is a passion, and you know, whether me being in the ring, not so much because, like I said, I'm not trying to. You know, I did the whole boxing route thing. I did amateur boxing. I pulled my back at one point, and it was like just a horrible recovery.
Back's no joke.
And every time when I, you know, do some sort of something, eventually, sometimes it'll pull again. In like 3 days, I'm out. So like, what makes me really hesitant to get to do anything. But it's like if I could do, you know, once a week or something, and just to learn, you know, certain things, it would be fun. But again, a lot of dreams. But it isn't too old to start. You know, I've heard people, you know, again, starting in, you know, late 30s, early even 40s now, jumping in there. And if you're physically in shape, your body's able to, there's really nothing to stop you but your mind. You know what I'm saying?
And
I mean, do you feel your age when you're in there? Probably not.
no, I don't, honestly. I feel wrestling with, you know, kids half my age, 27, 28, 29-year-old guys. That's who's primarily in the locker room. You know, I feel they're the ones keeping me young because they got to keep up with me.
But you know, the funny thing is when like growing up, we would see wrestlers on TV. To me, they were always older. Like for me, when I was a kid, I always figured Hogan was in his 40s. I never thought of him as in his 20s or 30s. I always figured in his 40s. Arn Anderson, always in his 40s or 50s maybe. Ric Flair too, maybe like, you know, 30s. I never pictured people as being in their 20s, but when I heard their actual age, it's like, damn, they look older then. And people do look older then. People acted older then. You know, a 40-year-old, you know, in 1970 or 60 wouldn't act the same as a 40-year-old today. 40-year-olds today are like 25-year-olds.
Correct.
You know, we're still playing video games. We're still doing shit, you know. We're streaming, we're podcasting, we're playing with social media. I mean, it's not like, you know, we're just sitting there reading the paper and then watching the news and going to bed at night.
Well, I was talking to my mom the other day and telling her, you know, I really don't know my own age. I don't see anybody else's getting older. You know, everybody's the exact same age when I was a kid. We've frozen in time. It's just to here. Yeah, my body has changed a little bit, but to me, I'm still this little kid and everybody's still the adults. You know, I shouldn't be the adult in charge. They're the ones, you
Yeah,
know.
I feel, you know what, to be honest with you, I feel that the same way a lot of the time. I'm like, wait a minute. They'll turn around and be like, well, you know, you're 40 now. I'm like, well, but yeah, but I'm still a kid.
Yeah, wait, you don't expect me to be responsible, right?
You're gonna make me do it. Like, what? You know who I am? Like, what? No. I never earned that yet. I haven't earned that star yet. But it is true though. Like the age is different. You know, like if you look at the older, you know, years ago, people of, you know, certain ages acted a lot older. It seemed like they acted a lot older. People weren't into this stuff. And now today, age is just a number. You know, people are out there doing things incredible at whatever age they're at. You know, you do have people in their 60s, 70s still wrestling in some parts of the country. Even on the indie scene, there's a guy that runs around that's up there in age. And it's like, God bless you, doing, you know, that's great. You see it in major sports, people are going a little bit longer, right? Quarterbacks are playing a little bit longer. The NBA guys are going a little bit longer now. You know, everybody goes a little bit longer. People get retired, they come back. Even boxing, I've seen people go a little bit longer now.
We're no longer abusing our bodies the way we used to. You know, drugs, steroids, whatever the case, alcohol, you know, everybody kind of sees, you know, the drawbacks of these things.
You know, I see, and that's the thing, I see a lot more, you know, I'm an advocate for medical marijuana, and I see a lot, you know, that being a law in a lot of states, I see a lot more people when they're injured using that rather than the hardcore drugs, pain pills. You know, we have an epidemic in this country, and it doesn't get any easier. But for some reason, you know, those 70s, 80s, early 90s guys, they didn't live like wrestling athletes. They lived like wrestler rock stars. and it was totally different era. They would be out partying and doing drugs. And I feel like, between the alcohol, and I won't say I never drank. I drank in my 20s, but I quit because, I learned that it wasn't good. The only thing I do now is, like I said, I smoke medical cannabis, but I feel like between the alcohol going into them, the other drugs they were doing in between to stay up and awake and to keep up with that busy schedule, and then the steroids to keep their body in shape, all three of those combined just basically killed these guys, one after another.
You don't have a chance at that point.
No, their hearts were failing on and on, and it was just like, you lost a whole generation of wrestlers way too young. Almost anybody I grew up with as a kid, they're gone.
The icons that made it to old age are there for a reason. They're the ones that didn't do the hard drugs and the partying.
I will tell you, I am surprised by Flair. He's the exception. He's the exception there.
So I was talking to another buddy earlier today, talking about rock and roll stars, living the rock and roll lifestyle. I'm going to counter you with one man. That's Keith Richards.
Yeah.
So Ric Flair, Keith Richards, same.
Yeah, no.
Whatever they're doing, it's working.
And even, I guess, I think Ric Flair later in his life learned that he was able to tone it down in time. And you still, there's just people out there that can party. And, you even got people that are literal rock stars too now, like Chris Jericho. But, it's not the same. Like, I felt like, in the 80s, Coke was very prevalent in the locker room. Uppers were very prevalent. Things to stay awake and keep going, but then you needed something to come down. So then there was all these, downers and alcohol and other things. And then, like I said, between that and the steroids to get going, to get your body into the way it needed to be, so you could drink and party all night. You didn't have to spend hours in the gym. It all just did its toll, and it's like it's sad in a way. But today's guys aren't like that. They treat it like they're athletes. They eat better. They take care of themselves better. They take care of their mental health better. They take that actually as part of their health. Where I feel like a lot of wrestlers before just push the mental health aspect aside.
See, when I started wrestling, I was over 250 pounds. So I've lost, 60 pounds to start with, and then I consistently kept losing the weight and kept it off. So now I stay at 185, 190-ish. I kind of fluctuate depending on how well I eat, but I can't eat a whole lot of garbage food now. Like, it has changed my body because of the dedication I put into it. So
it happens. I remember when I went amateur boxing, I was about what I'm in now. It's like 188. I'm a little bit overweight for my height. So I didn't want to be in that heavyweight division, no hell, no way, because it was going all the way up to like 220. But the height was my issue. Not
7-foot monsters, height. No.
Because the height and the boxer, when they're that weight, is usually they're going to have a big ass reach. So I dropped down to 172.
Yep.
And, in about 3 to 4, I was about 4 weeks, I was like at 180, and then like a little bit longer. And, I changed everything. I went vegan. I stopped eating meat. I stopped eating fast food. I stopped eating a whole bunch of things. I did that for like a good 10 years. And like, it took another 5 years for probably the weight to find itself back. But, you do. It almost becomes addictive when you get into it all because, you want to see its success and you want to see how you're doing. And, you weigh yourself, you check yourself, you're measuring the clothes you're wearing, you're feeling looser, you're feeling better. You got more energy, more natural energy. You don't have to drink as much caffeine. There's a whole lot of
T4 right there. But I mean, the biggest thing is after you start eating proper food and you go back to eating anything else, your body won't digest it. You won't stomach it. You can taste the chemicals. I can't eat at certain restaurants. My body just won't digest it. It will not process it. So certain food groups are out now because I just can't eat unhealthy foods.
I tell you though, if you go to Europe and eat their food, it's totally different because
correct.
For some reason the U.S. just allows every kind of preservative or any kind of thing into it. And it's like a lot of this stuff is banned in Europe. And I remember when I went to Italy, like I was eating pasta, I was eating everything. I didn't gain weight, didn't feel bloated, didn't feel sick, didn't
Eating
feel
5 meals, 6 meals a day.
yeah, and then I come back here and eat a half a bowl of pasta and you feel bloated and tired and
See,
this and that. It's like, what's wrong with our food?
See, I'm into cooking, so knowing that we eat celery, the stalk, go overseas anywhere and try to get celery stalk. They don't eat it. They don't use that for cooking. They don't like celery stalk. They'll use the leaves, they'll use the root, they'll use the entire plant. The stalk is what they feed the animals. We're eating garbage that no other country will eat because, hey, it's the celery's not good for you.
No.
That's just one example.
But it is, and I mean, there's a whole list of. I mean, try going to buy, half of the food in another country. It's banned. And if you look at ingredients, they're totally two different lists. They don't use any red dyes. So, the U.S. uses all these numbers and red 40 and 80 and all these other things, all banned.
We should be able to pronounce everything that's in our food.
I should know where it comes from.
Absolutely, that too. But we shouldn't be getting a product from country A, canned or bottled in country B, shipped to country C. That doesn't make sense.
I mean, yeah, when it could just be, from one spot. And that's the thing, eating healthy is a big, I think, part of the whole thing. Because you could be the best wrestler in the world, you could be the best athlete in the world, but if you're feeding your body trash, you're going to be trash. It's like having a nice car and feeding it, rubbing alcohol instead of gasoline. How far are you going to go?
Yeah, it'll burn, but not well.
Not very well at all. And that's the thing. A lot of people forget about that part. I've seen guys and girls forget about that you actually have to go to a regular gym. They'll just do the wrestling training or do show to show, but they won't go and work their cardio.
Maintain.
Yeah, I mean, I remember from boxing, I had to train 300 hours for 3 minutes. When I stepped in there, I was already tired because of between the mental anguish, people throwing fists at you, you're blocking, you get tired fast. You got to be really in cardio state. I'm guessing wrestling's similar. You're in there, you're starting, the momentum, the adrenaline, everything is just draining you slowly.
Exactly. I mean, you haven't wrestled, I haven't boxed, but I take it's pretty much the exact same. It's when I wrestle, I take it as a fight because for 8 minutes we've got to perform some, gymnastics for the people. It's going to hurt us. It's not going to feel nice, but after 8 minutes, we'll go to the back and, hug it out and say, hey, that was good. Let's do it again next week.
Yeah, the same thing with the boxing. Nobody was out there to kill each other. It was amateur. It was for fun. A lot of it was for fight nights and charities. We had the headgear. Nobody was trying to kill each other. But at the end of the day, you're going out there. You're taking punches. But taking the punches wasn't the hard part. Throwing the punches wasn't the hard part. The hard part was
performing is easy. Yeah,
controlling your breathing. That was the number one hard part. Not gasping yourself in the first minute of the first
thing to do in the world. Just breathe. And how is it we forget to do it in the middle of things?
Because we get so frantic and we just stop. And our body is made to when something happens to just hold our breath. And you got to remember that's so bad. You got to stop that behavior. It should just be breathe. Okay.
That's it. I remember in one match, I stopped breathing because I was breathing the entire time I was taking the heat. Once it was time for me to take over, I started working and then realized I didn't breathe until I got my spot in, had to run the ropes and then take a senton bomb and then take something else. So when I started breathing, I was already out of breath, then got crushed in the senton bomb and could not catch my breath. So then I'm
yeah,
like I was learning how to breathe for the first time.
And I mean, let me ask you, what happens? What do? You got an 8-minute match time that they want you to work. You gas yourself out in the first 2 minutes. What are you supposed to do?
I've kept going. It does not matter. You keep going.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do. It's live
Nothing you
entertainment.
can do.
You can't say, "Hey, I'm a little tired. We got to stop." Like, you got to keep doing it. So,
Timeout. I'm not breathing right. I need some water. Let's do this again in 5 minutes.
I mean,
No,
the only way I guess you could really get away with it if you faked an injury, which would be horrible to do.
so I was in a triple threat. I could roll out of the ring and kind of walk away as the legal man. I've got a 10 count before I've got to get back in. Then all I got to do is grab the ref and say, I need a minute, and then I can buy my time.
Yeah,
But
there's
you
ways
have
of
to take
slowing it
control.
down, but
And that's, you have to take control. I'm not going to get it unless I say I'm struggling.
if you don't say nothing, your opponent's just going to keep coming until like nothing's wrong.
Correct, because they don't know. That's why you have to grab the ref first and put him in the way, and then the ref will separate. Hey, what are you doing? You've got to go above and beyond to control the situation.
Yeah, I could see that. But again, it's a lot of thinking on the fly. It's a lot of improv. How do I make this work now? You don't have you don't have 5 minutes to figure out what's going to happen in an 8-minute match. You have seconds.
I was in the middle of a match, triple threat match, and we weren't even able to talk the match out. So we didn't have a finish. I didn't know the finish. I'm already wrestling. So I had to get beat up, get thrown out of the ring to talk to the people who were running the show to say, hey, what are we supposed to do? And then I had to go in and tell the wrestlers the actual finish and the ref.
I mean, that happens. And I've even heard stories where like wrestlers will tell the ref like, hey, they changed the story, this is how it's gonna go. And the ref will go with it. And like they'll get reamed after because there was no contact between the promoter and anybody.
If they're not wearing an earpiece, so whatever is relayed before and after the match, that's it. It's showtime now. Work with what you got.
But there's people out there coming in that are like, I'm never going to come back here again. Why not just slide, say I'm going to go over? They're already gone by the time people know what the hell happened.
Correct.
Terrible, but I mean, it happens. I mean, you got to remember, wrestling as much as it is, it all started in the carnival, right? Circuses. It really did. And it was meant to be a show. It was meant to bring in crowds, bring in money, and work them.
It was a work.
The idea of a carnival. Not much has changed, except obviously that it doesn't take place on carnival grounds for the most part anymore. And second, there's a lot more interaction now. You can, meet your favorite wrestlers. You can meet, your favorite stars at the indie shows. WWE is much bigger than you can spend, half your life fortune to meet your heroes. There's a lot going on. It's a lot more inclusive. There's a lot more available, a lot more just people involved. Like before, I remember it not being so much, the females not really watching it that much, maybe once or twice. Now there's generations of girls that look up to the female athletes now because we have that. We didn't have that before. And it's forever evolving into just something more and more, inclusive that everybody can really be a part of. There's something in wrestling across the whole board, not just, one company, but if you look at the whole board of all the different styles, all the different promotions, there is something truly for everyone there.
Absolutely. You like Westerns, watch wrestling. You like comedy, watch wrestling. You like romance, watch wrestling. You like horror, watch wrestling. You like hardcore horror, watch wrestling,
Yeah, I mean, that's how I look at it. Like, okay, I'm going to watch a slasher film. No, I'm going to watch, a deathcore match. I'm going to watch something fun. I'm going to watch comedy core. I want to watch, something with, a little bit of more storyline. I'll watch this kind of wrestling. Like, there's so much out there now that there really is something for everybody that I feel like, just find something you like and enjoy it.
And that's another reason why, if I'm on a card and if there's 6 matches, I'm trying to find out what those 6 matches have in common and then not do any of those things. You always see the start of a match, collar, elbow, lockup. Guess what I'm not going to do? Probably not going to collar an elbow. I'm going to figure out some way of starting the match hot or getting it across to where we don't have to do that because everybody knows how it starts. Or I'm not going to do the double down where you're going to see 10 double downs where everybody's 1, 2, it gets repetitive. So I'm trying to do anything that they're not doing. So no collar and elbow, no double down, call it all in the ring, be as brutal as you can, but safe. That goes over pretty well because everybody else is flipping and jumping and you can see them pause and hesitate. You can kind of see the break in the flow. You just go all in. It's hard to fake that.
Now, do you go off the top rope and stuff?
Oh no, sir. No, sir. I don't leave the second rope. That's as high as I'm. Why is a Viking flying?
I don't know. If you were jumping off the ship and it was on fire.
But true. I do want to do something off the top rope, but to me, it has to be a big match. It has to be a big moment. It has to be a reason for everything I do. If I'm in a championship match, I might go to the top rope because I've got to pull everything
like if you
out.
had to pull everything out, every last
every trick.
Oh my God, he's gone to the top. He's never done this before.
If it's
because like the top rope is nothing nice. I mean, just to peel it back tiny bit, you look on the TV, it looks like this straight platform that you can just stand right on, nice and plush. When we got to jump onto the crash pads, I had to like hold the guy's hand the whole way up. He held my hand until I jumped. You can't keep balance. You have to be so center balanced and quick that it takes time to learn that.
And I've got a large foot, so my boot's a 13. So I've got to balance this, 1-inch rope on this giant foot.
That's not happening. And not to mention if the rope's not slippery. The rope can't be slippery. If it's slippery, forget about it.
In one match, now this was in the middle of October, so I'd lost my voice working at a haunted house. So you can't hear me 2 feet away. So my partner cannot hear what I'm saying as we're working together. You understand? He whips me into the corner. I'm supposed to springboard off the corner into a flying shoulder tackle. So I've got to jump, turn around, and leap all in one motion. Well, I slip and end up catching myself and sitting down on the ropes. And I just sitting, but I am off balance. So I start slowly falling, looking very awkward. I tell my partner, push me, hit me, do something, and he can't hear me until I get very weird angle, European uppercut, which pops me back up, and then I can springboard up. But oh God, it was just a quick, something went wrong because I just missed. And that was the second rope. If I go to the third rope and miss,
yeah, the third rope is, like I said, nothing nice. It's not exactly, and that's why, there is that little warning on things to say, do not try this at home. It's by professionals. It's because the people that do this shit have trained to do it. They've worked it every single day. They work it multiple times a day. They're not just doing it on the fly.
It's not the first time doing it, and it's that person's not the first time receiving it, and they've probably done the same move. Several cities, worked it out to perfection.
Before they even got to a live crowd, they've worked.
Correct.
And that's the thing. You want to be a pro wrestler today, that's great, but you're going to go to school, you're going to be a training, and then you're going to wrestle. You're not just going to go today, I'm going to be a pro wrestler, and they're going to set you up on the next show. That's not really how it works. You're going to, especially being new. I mean, if you're a veteran, maybe, I don't know, that could be different. You might get, they might see what you still know and then work you from there. But if you're, just starting green, you might be a year before you go. It might be 6 months. It all depends on, how well you're taking to understand the wrestling and where you're needed. I always tell kids, go to schools that have promotions attached to them because, it's almost like going to a, college that has a job attached to it.
Once you graduate training, there's the show.
They can use you.
My trainer, basically said, the shortest you'll ever graduate my class is 6 months. The longest has been 3 years. So it all depends on you. How quickly can you pick it up?
And that's the thing, and it all depends your dedication level. If you can't dedicate the time to train, it's going to take you a lot longer.
Correct.
Like going to college, if you're going back to school and you can only go, half a day or once a week, it's going to take a lot longer to graduate than the kid going 3 times a week.
See, my league, the training was twice a week, 2 times a day, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It was 6 to 8 because the trainer knew when he started, it was 8 hours, 8 hours of training nearly every day. So he knew everybody's got a life. Everybody's older than that. Everybody's progressed past that. If you can't do it with this minimal time, you should be able to get it done. He should learn everything you need to learn and practice at home. But my trainer is going to figure out really quickly how soon you can wrestle.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how somebody works if they're understanding fundamentals, if they're, understanding what they have to do and how to do it. I mean, some people can get hung up on the bumping. Bumping's hard. I had miserable time bumping when I was doing it because I just didn't want to fall down, like I said. I could see if I was going to train, it would take me probably a little bit to adjust to bumping. Where running the ropes, I thought I was very good and very easy at. I was able to hold on, run back forth, make it easy, knock it out of breath. Cool. Rolls were rolls. I was waking up and feeling dizzy as shit. I don't know what was going on. Different things I think would just take me different times. But again, I'm coming in as an older person. If I was younger, I would probably do all these things a lot easier.
I hurt myself on every new roll. So front rolls got hurt. So I had to work through that. Then it was left-handed quarter rolls, hurt. So I had to work myself through that. Then it was right-handed quarter rolls. Then it was back rolls, constantly hurting myself. Bumps were no problem. Ropes, it looked like somebody hit me with a kendo stick.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that they don't tell you. That's the only thing. The bruising on the ribs. The bruising on the ribs is something that I wasn't expecting. And I didn't notice until later that night. I was like, oh my God, why is my ribs killing me?
Well, I was watching a whole bunch of Tough Enough. I was watching several, podcasts on how wrestling training is going to be before I got into training. So I wanted to know as much as I could that I was getting myself into. I was hitting the ropes more like Al Snow and to the side, but he's not really, he's kind of doing them a little bit slower. I was hitting them full force and only connecting with my side. And it just looked like someone just beat me with a stick.
Well, that's almost how they were teaching us. They weren't teaching us to use it, but they were teaching us to go one side and always the same side and hold on with our hand and run back and forth and kind of switch over.
Flat. When I hit the ring, I can move the ring. I can shake the ring. I'm not 400 pounds, but you can still see the ring shake. I'm hitting it with such force and you can see it moving.
But you make it look easy, and people make it look easy. That's the thing. Like I remember we did, I've done film work for promotions, and I went to they were doing a tape, and obviously before the show, the wrestlers are all practicing in the ring, and I got in there, my friend got in there, one of the guy wanted to body slam. I was like, oh, I'll take a body slam, whatever. And my friend, he had never done any training. He'd never done day training. He never did anything. So he never learned how to bump, never learned how to run, never learned how to do anything. He decides to run the ropes. He runs at it full speed and goes and just puts his back right into it, like as if, it was like a big rubber band. The thing snapped almost instantly back and hit him right in the sciatic nerve. He dropped right to the ground and just collapsed. He couldn't get back up. I actually had to hold him up, bring him to the car. Like I smoked him up. Like he was in a lot of pain that day. Later, he would find out it was, he went to the doctors that he hit his sciatic nerve. But, he just did like you would see on TV or think that it would be done. And it was like, that's not how it is. And that's how I can see how people can get hurt so easily that don't know how to train. And even people that are trained, like one instant wrong or one wrong move. And it's just like, just forgetting how to do something proper can just, land you in the hospital later on.
One of our guys broke his forearm doing his finisher, the bicycle kick. How do you break a forearm on a bicycle kick?
I mean,
he kicked
it happened.
He kicked and went down. and put his hand down. But as the kicker, you should be able to stay standing. Not sure how he fell, but that's exactly what happened. He kicked and fell, broke his forearm.
I mean, but things can happen. I mean, like I said, even the best trained wrestlers in the world, have broken their necks in the ring. They've gotten hurt by some of the best. Unfortunately, you got people like Draws, who just a freak accident, nothing out of the ordinary that day, nobody mistrained. Just a sad instance of this is what the sport and can happen in the sport. It's a very real risk you take when you step in the ring every time.
And that was,
it doesn't matter of age either. It can happen to the young or the old.
I'm gonna blame wardrobe more than anything. I'm blaming the wardrobe that prevented him from getting a grip, or he got snagged some weird way which caused him to fall funny. Nothing either one of them did. Just freak accident.
Yeah, and it's just like, but these things are real, and it kind of sits forefront on why wrestling should be taken serious. Why it shouldn't just be looked at some kind of gag that anybody can do, or some shit that people can bullshit through. Like, training's important. Going to school is important. Learning how to do this proper way is important. Safety is very important. Not just your safety, but because wrestling is reverse. Your safety is in your opponent's hand.
Correct.
You are in charge of your opponent. So, you have to have a trust. This is very hard stuff to do. It's not for your ordinary person.
That's one of the things I pride myself on. I've yet to, have anybody injured on my watch. I've taken a little more liberties, I've had people take more liberties on me, and I've been injured a couple times, but I've yet to cause my partner to get hurt. I only do moves that I know are, I'm comfortable with, and I can perform in a safe manner on anybody. And that's, how I structure my match. If I can't lift you, I'm not going to plan on doing a whole list of things. I look at each opponent, as a real opponent. If you're 6'5", 350, there's no way I should pick you up for anything. So if I bump you one time, that's good enough for me. That looks believable.
Yeah. And that makes sense. Makes perfect sense, honestly. Let me ask you something. Do you ever get nervous or afraid to get in the ring?
See, I have I've kind of lost that. I know the Ric Flair saying, the moment you're not afraid is the moment you need to get out of the ring. But doing what we do, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust your opponent. So I'm putting a lot of trust on my opponent, because I'm also going to say, I'm not taking this. I'm not taking this move. I'm not taking that move. So I'm going to put my foot down, expecting you to do the exact same.
So you're going to work. So you're working within your limits. You know what your body's capable. You know what you can do. You know what you're willing to do. You know the risk you're kind of willing to take. So I've talked to guys that be like, I'll go out there and I only do, what I'm really comfortable with. And, it's like, they'll say it, like 4 or 5 bumps. And these 2 spots, those will be my major things. Everything else is kind of here or there. And that's how they prolong the career, taking minimal bumps every show. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just kind of knowing your limits, sticking to it. Because when you start just, going by what everybody else wants to happen, that's when you kind of lose yourself in it. And that's when you push yourself too far, I feel. And that's when people can get injured really easily.
They asked me one time, how many matches do you think you can do a night? I told them flat out, I don't think you want a whole card of Warhammer, but I think I can give you 8 matches, just because I'm good to go. I'm acting like I'm hurt. I'm acting like I'm tired more than I'm actually hurt and tired. So I ended up doing 3 matches in a night. I kind of did the Bret Hart, and each match I got a little more messed up and, was acting a little more, worn down, but at no point was I done,
No,
I could have kept going.
Like the determination of indie wrestlers in general is just kind of amazing. Because I've seen guys work 3 shows in one day across 2 or 3 states, and it's like
I've done 2.
Pounds.
I did one show got in the truck, still in gear, drove 45 minutes, got out of the truck, unloaded my gear, and was almost in the ring at that point.
And I mean, there's got to be some kind of thrill to that, honestly. It looks fun.
It was fun. To me, I joined the club, the other brothers that have actually done this and have gone to big things, the W guys, they were in my shoes 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. They were going through the exact same streets, knocking on the same doors, shaking the same hands.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Like, I always see that indie kind of life, and I've done it as a fan, I guess. I've been to shows in Maine one night, and then I went to like Jersey the next, and I would see the same guys. And then I would go back to another show, see the same guys. They're like, damn, you get around. I'm like, damn, are you following me? Because I know where they're coming from. I know how long everything takes, and they're driving too. And it's like, it looks so fun. The road trips look fun.
Some are. Some get old, 5+ hours one way. That's a long time in a van.
But I mean, depending, I guess, on who you're driving with, it could be fun.
That's it. It's all in who you go with. That's all in the boys going, But I find it odd that we have to drive 5-6 hours to wrestle ourselves in somebody else's show.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a hike.
But to me, that's how I know I'm going home safe. I worked my guy. I know what he's capable of. I don't have to question it.
No, and it's also, honestly, from a promoter standpoint of view, it ends up, for some reason, it works out because, whoever's dealing with you all, the promoter will go, I need 3 matches. You'd be like, well, I'll give you a van full of guys for this price. And all of a sudden, you're bringing 6 guys up, and you all know each other. That's 3 matches already set up with people that know and trust each other. And nobody has to worry, and the matches are going to be great, and the chemistry is great. There's no backroom drama. It's done. You guys get on your way. You go home. Job
and
well done.
We might have had 5 hours to talk about this one match.
Yeah, and I mean, but you kind of take control of, at that point of, what am I going to be doing at this other show? Where am I going? Is it going to be fun? And, you can make it fun. You can talk to your guy and be like, this is what we're allowed to do. Let's take it to this level. At least you know your partner, you know who it is. And like I said, from a promoter's point of view, it saves money because you're bringing one group up on, gas and travel rather than just, everybody individually and then trying to book them against other wrestlers. It's like you already got the matches set.
Yes, sir.
And you do, where are you wrestling now, right now? What promotions?
So I'm in 3 different groups. I'm with the League of Lions in Marshall. I'm with Warrior Wrestling Alliance out of Lufkin, and then Sadistic Wrestling Alliance out of Silsbee. I actually go this Saturday to Silsbee to wrestle with those guys on the Scorched Earth show.
Wow, all these promotions sound dangerous. I've never heard of them, but they sound dangerous.
Well, they say sadistic because we can't do it without you. So Sadistic Wrestling, these guys, they started in the backyard, but they are moving indoors very quickly. They now have their own facility that got their ring set up at. They host training. So they are now doing big things at the Boys and Girls Club in Silsbee.
See, I think that's the difference. A lot of businesses, they start in the backyard, and backyard wrestling has a rep to it on its own. But a lot of businesses, a lot of promotions start at backyard, and they did something, they got themselves out of the backyard. They got proper trainers and training and all of that. Some don't. Some just stay there, and it's just like, now you're just kind of playing make-believe. Or paying to play. So I'll see people, they'll spend like $10,000, they'll spend like $1,000 to rent the ring for a day, and they'll just have a couple of their friends wrestle with them, and they'll film it, and it's like, it's wrestling, but it's you're paying for it.
It's gritty. It's gritty, but it's a show.
I call it pay to play, but I like when I see companies evolve. I like when I see wrestlers evolve. I like the evolution that takes place on the indie scene. You see this guy that comes in green. He might not even, have the gimmick for long that he has. It might transcend. It might change. Something changes. All of a sudden, he gets up to the next level, and the next level, and the next level. And then, before you know it, you're watching AEW one day and you see the dude and you're like, oh, I remember him when I saw him on this in front of 30 or 40, 50 people. And it's just like, wow, you know, this dude did all that. Same thing with promotions. They'll start in the backyard and then you watch them and it's like all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow, they're killing it right now. You know, they really tweaked it and they made really good shows.
Speaking of sadistic, I think it was last week or the week before they did a wrestling show. It was a fundraiser to send some girls to Ireland to compete in powerlifting or strongman competition. Like they sent some, you know, raised some money for these girls. Mark Henry from the WE even sent some money to these girls. So, you know, to be featured by a celebrity because they're some local group, like that blew them away. They were on the news, they were tweeted about, like everything you need to do for a wrestling show happened. And they're backyarders. They fell into this and it just worked. So they are strapping, you know, chaining themselves to this rocket and we're going to the moon.
That is awesome, really is. You know, it's great to see all that kind of stuff. I said transpire. You know, I'm a big firm believer in the indie scene. It's what I mostly watch nowadays. You know, I watch WWE here and there, AEW, all the other ones here and there. It's very spotty though. It's a match here or there. I don't have the attention span for 4 or 5 hour events anymore.
I'll follow my favorite wrestlers at that point. I can't.
Yeah, like it's
2
like
hours.
that. I want to see a match. I'll figure out when it is. But like for the indie scene, I'll sit there. I'll dedicate my 2.5, 3 hours.
Watch the whole show.
Match. I might watch it twice. I might try to listen to something. Like I don't know. Just something about it just pulls me. Maybe because like I think it is because I can get closer to these guys and girls. You know, you see them on social. You see them at a show. They recognize you. They say hello. You buy their shirt. They sell it to you directly. You take a picture with them.
That's as close as you can get to a celebrity in your hometown. You know, it's not Tom Cruise, it's not Brad Pitt, but hey, I've seen you do something and I know you. So
yeah, I mean, and not for nothing. I mean, I in the town I live in, you know, we have a very prominent promotion out this way called Chaotic Wrestling. They come to my hometown once in a while. You know, this is a promotion that, you know, that Mercedes, Sasha Banks started in. Okay, I mean, so like they get anybody that comes back to New England right now. Dijak is their head trainer for the New England Wrestling. So like he'll come to this town, he'll be there. Like people that are on TV have come back and been in this town. It's like, damn, wrestling is that big now, and you know you can get that close. I can go down there and I can see people that were, you know, in WWE not too long ago.
You can still touch this product. You know, you can't touch.
It's not out of my bank, you know, it doesn't break my bank. WWE, you can
Correct.
get close, but it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you an arm and a leg and more. And it's even more now. The prices keep going up and up. Meet and greets are over the top. You know, I was very surprised. I met Joe Henry not too long ago. He came to my town and not my town, but in, you know, near my town. Did a meet and greet and it was like $50. And I was like, damn, that's cheap because the guy's very over right now. And if it was under WWE's terms, it would have been like $500.
But how much would have gone to Joe?
Huh?
How much of that 500 would have gone to Joe?
Probably none of it because it would have all been licensed. And that's the thing. WWE licensed names and it's all about a license. And it's like, you know, this dude was just coming out. He was and you know, he said something very humble. He was like, you know, I still work a day job. And he goes, I do this for a reason. I don't want to make my money from wrestling because then I got to take every gig, every job, every work, everybody that I got to run every city. I got to run every town.
It becomes work.
Yeah, and he says, no fun. He says, but if I can do this, I can turn down contracts. I can say no to WWE. I can say no to anybody because I already have a job. I'm already making money. This is just for fun. And I like that mentality. I get it as the dream to make your money off of wrestling, but it also works only very well if you have a good contract because otherwise you're running around, you're going everywhere, you're doing a lot, and it can be very taxing if you're not coordinated and you got to be really you know, just you have to have all your shit together to be able to do that because it's a lot of running around and you got to market yourself almost 24/7 between merch, sales, you know, your wrestling bookings, traveling, where you're going, making yourself there, here, everywhere. You got to break out of your local bubble because now you need to get more than just, 1 or 2 bookings a week. You need like 4 or 5. It becomes a lot.
I don't market myself enough. I need to push my podcast more. I need to push my shows more, my wrestling more, but I've got kind of a consistent basis. I'm working at least 3 different groups. I can fill up a show, fill up a month, and I'm working every Saturday. Sundays, I kind of need them to recover because I'm usually dehydrated and hurt. So I can't really do too much more, maybe add a Friday here and there, but 4 shows a month.
And what you add more shows in and it becomes too much, then you start risking, your performance on each show. What's it going to look like? How's it going to look? Is it up to par? Is it the Warhammer that people still like?
And I still have to take my vehicle to and fro. So the wear and tear on me plus my vehicle, it's exponential.
It really is. And, like I said, I think though, we're especially, like I said, you have your stuff together. I feel, you know exactly where you kind of want to be in the industry right now. You know where you're looking to be, and knowing that and kind of knowing your limits, it's a good place to be because you're not trying to reach some place that you're never going to go to, but neither are you selling yourself short because you know what you're worth.
I can see all the guys in my group that are more talented than me. I can see the guys that I think I can work circles around, and that's going to be in every locker room. But the thing is, how can you work with those guys, put them over, and then still get yourself over as well? So you still have to be able to sell the story. And to me, I'd rather sell the story as opposed to figuring out how I'm going to beat you or let you beat me. I'm just going to accept the L. Let's make you look big. How do we do that? Okay, I'm going to do this, which means you have to do this. And once we start building that way, I'm thinking about you. I don't feel comfortable telling you, hey, I'm going to give you a clothesline, and then you drop down, and then I'm going to do this. Like, I can't relay that message, but reverse, give me a drop kick. I can tell you, cut me off. I can give you the move that I think should be happening here. Boom. And then we can work back up and I'll cut you back off, but I think what it needs now is your spice. I can never add my flavor. I'm expecting you to kind of call that out. You know what I'm going to bring. If you want something extra, you got to tell me.
No, and I like that. You're straight up and you're honest, with the people you're working with, which is nice. It's refreshing. And like I said, I've seen some of your matches, with the strong style and everything. It looks like a fight. It's what I would consider, like pro wrestling. If I thought of pro wrestling back in the day, 2 big dudes beating each other. I like that. I like that look. I like hoss fights, even if, a lot of people want these high-end spots. I don't. I didn't grow up that way. I grew up with 2 guys just slugging.
Well, you're going to get that in the show. It just won't be this 8 minutes,
Yeah.
Just if you're looking for the next flip, just wait 8 minutes, you'll see it again. But for this 8 minutes, you're going to see a drinking contest. What? I've never seen a drinking contest before a wrestling match. We didn't drink alcohol. We drank Gatorade. That was still bad news because I had to burp in the middle of the match and I couldn't burp. But, we made it a show, made this
and that's the fine blend of entertainment and sports that people are looking for, I think. It's not one way too much. It's not one way the other, but it grabs everybody's attention. It's something different. Who's having a drinking contest?
And on St. Patty's Day,
it
was St. Patrick's Day, and that was the theme of the show. What are you supposed to do? If not, there was no leprechauns. There was no clovers.
If you're not drinking something, shit.
So I was like, let's do a drinking contest. And then they vetoed the idea up until like 3 days before. So I couldn't really get the idea flowing. I was going to have him, we were going to sit at a table and we were going to chug. I've got a drinking horn. I brought him one, it was going to be this big drinking match. And then he was going to put me through the table as the story progressed. We were going to feud. So every time he wins, he puts me through the table some sneaky way, So that would have been the continuation for 6 months. So they threw it at, and then they changed it, but made it work. Green Gatorade, it looked nasty, did a long pour into this horn. Everybody's, ooh, it stinks. Everybody's selling the idea, and it worked.
That's fun, though. That's fun. I have to say, that's something you don't see. And that brings back, like I said, back in the day when they used to do segments and different things and bring into wrestling, that kind of slowly disappeared over time. I love that, that you bring that to that because, I talk to a lot of different guys and girls. And I'll be talking to a lot more guys and girls on this little tour of mine with Cruising for a Bruising, and they all bring something different. And I love to see what, the different flavors are. I got one more question, and I'm going to ask for some social information where people can find you. But why should you become the next Cruising for a Bruising champion?
Well, I mean, in the post you said you're looking for one of the toughest wrestlers around. I can tell you all the stuff it took just to get me into training, and the fact that I'm even in training at 35 after being paralyzed and struck by lightning and this, that, the other. Square up in the ring. I'll show you.
By lightning?
Yes, sir.
How did that happen?
I was actually in Boy Scout camp when I was 14, 15, 16, I don't know, teenager, and was reluctant to leave this building. I couldn't really figure out why. And then after a minute, I agreed to leave. As we were walking out the building, lightning came down the tree that was in front of the building. It then arced through the doorway, tagged me, and then went to the globe above my head. I was blown 3 feet into somebody, woke up, he was shaking me. Hey, man, are you okay?
That must have been scary as fuck.
I remember a bright blue and white ball and then waking up with a headache.
Damn, you're lucky, though. I mean, that's all it was.
And now I have a hard time around antenna radios and antennas. I can either make the reception perfect without being near it, or I can completely trash it if you have great reception. Just it's one of those. I can feel magnets, and
so you still have like that electricity kind of just stayed with you.
It did.
So maybe you are the most electrifying man in pro wrestling.
The most electrifying. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing.
I don't know in your case, but damn, you are definitely tough. And then you talk paralyzed too, and that was even before stepping into training. That's incredible.
I was hit by a drunk driver and ended up with my neck, severe whiplash, hyperextension and reflexation is what they called it, minor traumatic brain damage on top of that. So my neck being backwards. So if your neck kind of makes a soft little C, mine was this way. So I had to be bent and twisted. I had to go see a chiropractor 3 times a week for so many weeks, twice a week for so many weeks, and then once a week. Yeah.
Oh wow, God bless though. God bless. I mean, I have to say that's a lot to go through, and that's before you even got into the ring.
And then
you made it to the training, and now you're kicking ass out there. Where can people find you?
Well, again, like I said, I'll be in Silsbee, Texas on Saturday. Then on the 7th of September, I'll be in Lufkin. You brought up the carnival. I'll be in the carnival in Lufkin on the 7th, September 7th. Then September 14th, I'll be battling at the brewery in Tyler, Texas. So that's going to be a fun match. The third week, I believe that's the 21st. That's going to be in Marshall. And then I wrestle again on the 28th back in Silsbee. So September is a busy month for me. And it's starting this weekend. So
awesome. And how about social? You got social media? You do social media?
Social medias, I got a few right now. I've got a podcast dropping the hammer with your host Warhammer. That's on the VCS network, I believe. VSW
Big
Network.
Musket Podcast Network, yes.
Yes, sir. Then I've also got Warhammer on Facebook, Odin Sun War on Instagram, and Warhammer LOL on TikTok.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for coming on. I really do, and I feel you good luck in this little tournament for Brusing. And yeah, we'll be reaching out. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody at home, for tuning in. We're going to keep on trekking as we keep on rolling through the cities, talking to some of the biggest, baddest wrestlers out there. Have a good night, folks. Versace Stoner out.